Okay, we all understand that the mitzvahs run in multiple layers. And 613 mitzvahs, although we're told not to analyze what's better, mitzvahs adam dash ba'kevav, in reality, you have a mitzvah of Noach Hashem Lekecha. You have a mitzvah that take a very small, what's a very small mitzvah? Relative to Noach Hashem
Right,
Lekecha.
saying that's what I'm thinking. You gave me a huge one.
Right, I'm taking the biggest one.
A mitzvah we just did last week, Birchas Yonis.
Birchas
Even
Yonis,
though
okay.
it's once a year, but still.
Right.
Okay.
So, or you take a mitzvah of, Birchas Hamazon, Oshim Talui. So there is a hierarchy, even though we obviously
You
cannot
have to keep everything the same.
judge nor evaluate. We can't say what's more important. At the end of the day, there's a hierarchy of mitzvahs. You can say that some are closer to the tachlis, and some are more enablers for the tachlis. So, v'ahavta es Hashem Elokecha. That's more like what Simon Sinek would call purpose. Like it's much closer in to the tachlis of life. Now, I'm not saying you can't love Hashem when you take your lulav and esrog. Of course, you can love Hashem when you take your lulav and esrog. You eat your matzah. You.
But that's not the mitzvah. The mitzvah of little esrog is not the same. It's not equivalent to the mitzvah of half.
It's meant to generate you and put you in a situation where you have Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem. So those sheish mitzvahs tamidius, and those mitzvahs tamidius are supposed to be constant Avos Hashem, Yiras Hashem, etc. So not all mitzvahs fit into the same realm.
Technically, I'm thinking about now. I'm saying V'haftas Hashem. Technically, is the same mitzvah because you know that it's Hashem. What's the mitzvah V'haftas Hashem? What is the mitzvah V'haftas Hashem?
It's to have a to love him.
Yeah, but it's not a mitzvah. It's not an essa.
Of course, it's about Hashem Lekecha.
Yeah, but it's not a mitzvah. It's not an essa. It's like it's something.
Right. It's not an
something you
action.
do. It's not an action, exactly. So technically speaking, it could be. To some people it's harder, but to some people it's easier. So it all depends on the person.
Right.
Understand? So to some people, all the mitzvahs are in the same level.
Let's say the following: you could take a lulav and esrog, and have no emotions about it, but
It's
you
still a
can.
mitzvah
But right, and you cannot do Avos Hashem
without
having Avos Hashem.
Correct, because that is the mitzvah. The mitzvah is
Right.
you can't do Lilith and Esther thinking of Lilith and Esther, right?
Right.
But you could do it without thinking it. And after Hashem, you have to think it, but there's nothing to do.
Right.
So it's
It may express itself tangibly sometimes.
right, but there's no mitzvah in expressing it. So I'm saying, even though it feels like there is a hierarchy, but
I mean, when somebody's doing an avera, they can't be doing a mitzvah of a hafta Hashem at the same time.
why not?
It's counterintuitive.
Hashem, I love you, but I'm a baltaiva. That's
Correct. Why not?
you know.
You can still do the mitzvah.
So is that v'hafta as Hashem?
Why not?
I'm asking.
It may be a pigi in the Avos Hashem, but a person.
So if it's
Look,
a
let's
pigi in the
let's,
Avos Hashem,
let's
then
frame
you're
it
not
this
even
way.
driving the
There's
mitzvah.
two ways you could do it. You could do an avera. You could do an avera of Hashem. I don't care about you. You could do avera Hashem. I really care about you, but
I'm in a bad place.
I'm in a bad place. Like a junkie. A junkie doesn't want to take drugs, right? Someone on drugs doesn't want to take drugs.
So does that
What do you
v'hafta
mean?
Hashem count? Because if it doesn't count, then what I'll say is you have to do that v'hafta Hashem is not just a thought; it's an actual ma'isa. The ma'isa is of not
Well,
doing
you once you define Avos Hashem and Yiras Hashem as, let's call them utterly incremental because they're emotions, then that emotion is always present one way or another. It's incremental.
Yiras Hashem would be the one that would probably prevent you from doing Avera.
Well, the Yiras Hachet. There's Yiras HaRayumus and Yiras Hachet.
Right. We spoke about 1 week.
Right. So, every mitzvah, why did Hashem give us mitzvahs? Just the basics. Why did we give us mitzvahs? To give us
Ultimate To get to that level.
to get to a relationship with Hashem. And as it says that Hashem gave the mitzvahs, L'zakos es Yisrael, not just chosim, obviously it's chosim, but also L'zakos means to refine and purify the Jews. So the mitzvahs, in a sense, are a vehicle, not that they don't have value in their own right, but the mitzvahs are a vehicle ultimately to a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If you're imagine a man who's utterly evil, and let's imagine there's a guy who's not 20% evil or 5% evil, but he's 100% evil, if there were such a thing. No Rahmanas, no Midas, utterly evil. And that person said, I have a relationship with Hashem. What would you say to the guy?
I would say, I don't think so.
You say you're deluding yourself.
Correct. But
Because
he's a narcissist.
he's a narcissist, right? In his mind, I have a relationship, but in reality, I have absolutely you have no relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And if you're doing certain actions and you're living in a certain way, by definition, you don't have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. See, the greatest conundrum in Jewish philosophy is probably not how do you have Bechir if Hashem knows what you did, what you're going to do, and it's not the time construct. How can Hashem was outside of time create time? And how could there be a world if HaKadosh Baruch Hu is infinite? How could there be a finite? Does that infinite? All these philosophical questions. Ultimately, the purpose of man's creation. Why were we created?
To you said last week. I forgot the terminology. Bishvil
L'saneg al Hashem. Ultimately, have a relationship with Hashem. So,
Sanik al Hashem is also to please Hashem.
To please Hashem, it's a mutual relationship.
Yeah, okay.
So the conundrum of life is that to the degree that you're an animal, let's say you were a squirrel and you have no awareness, you cannot be said that you have a relationship with Hashem. Now you might be doing Hashem's will, but you're not.
You're not aware what you're doing.
You're not aware what you're doing. If you have no awareness, you really can't have a relationship with Him. If you're a bug, so we say that all the Bria, they follow the Rebbeinu Shalom and all, but in terms of awareness, if there's no awareness,
no relationship.
And let's imagine there's no neshama, so there's really no relationship. So to the degree that man lives like a squirrel, that part of him, because Hashem is not physical, you can't have physical proximity. So the only way you can get close to Him, and this is a axiom of Jewish philosophy, is by being similar to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Rav Noach Weinberg said this in the best way. He said, if you went to a non-Jewish religion and you said, what's the ultimate in your religion? Man to be close to God. Close to God, to experience God. Imagine a Buddhist, a Hindu, a Christian. I want to experience the rapture of Hashem. So Torah has a story, and Rav Noach would always say this. HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to visit Avram Avinu. You would think that that's the apex of human existence. Hashem is now with you. There's no better than it. Doesn't get better than that. And Avram says, Hashem, I'm really sorry I have to run because there are 3 Arab guys outside and I got to go bring them. Well, I don't even know who they are. I never met them before. I'm suffering. I had a bris. I'm an old man. But the bottom line is 3 Arab guys. I don't even know what the odds that if I'm going to do chesed that they're actually going to appreciate Hashem. I mean, what do you think Avram Avinu's success rate was? We don't know. But if it follows human history of today, it could have been a very small success rate. So Avram Avinu leaving Hashem to go do chesed with these 3 Arabs. Why is he doing that? He's leaving the presence of Hashem, which in any religion would tell you. What?
It's like oxymoron.
It's oxymoron.
You're leaving. Why do you do a mitzvah? To come close to Hashem. You're with Hashem right now. You already got to there.
So why are you leaving?
Yeah.
So Rav Noach would always say, in Judaism, it's more important to be like God than to be with God. It's more important to be like HaKadosh Baruch Hu than with HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
That's why the Nachash told Adam,
I'm going to make you like Hashem. And we'll come back to that repeatedly. So this notion of closeness to Hashem is not about an emotional experience. It's not even about a spiritual experience. to the degree that you are doima to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's the degree of closeness and lisanig al Hashem that you're going to get. So Avram says it's simple. Would I rather be with Hashem if I have an opportunity for chesed? I can make myself even more like Hashem. So I'm willing to defer the pleasure now of that. This is an incredible experience. How many times did Hashem visit Avram Avinu? And usually it was to tell him something. Usually, when Hashem came to Avram Avinu, it was, do this, do that, we got to make this agreement, bris bein absarim, I want you to do X, I'm going to promise you X. This was probably the only time that Hashem came to Avram, just to be with him. Imagine I go to your house, Chaim Baruch, I say, Chaim Baruch, how are you? By the way, you know that property you own, whatever, I think we should make a deal. Okay, I'm coming to your house, I love you, I care about you, but I have an agenda. It could be a good agenda. Chaim Baruch, listen, Rabbi Rotberg needs the land for the shul. Would you donate it? I'm here for you, Neshama. I care about you. It's all beautiful. But when I come to your house, say, Chaim Baruch, and you say, Aaron, what are you here for? I said,
just to be with you.
I just want to be with you. I want to hang out with you. That's a much higher level. So of all the levels of Nevuah, in a sense, even Nevuah's Moshe Rabbeinu, it didn't have an agenda, but in a sense, it had a purpose. The Nevuah served a purpose. That purpose was, Hashem wants to tell, Dabra Shalom Moshe, Dabra B'nai Yisrael, V'yom Aleim, V'mat Aleim, whatever. There was some purpose to it. This was Avram Avinu, does the bris milah, he's in a pact with Hashem, and he's at that level. And Avram sees, you know what? If I choose not to do chesed, I'm foregoing an opportunity to make myself even more like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And therefore, if I do that, I'm missing out on that closest to Hashem. That's not the purpose of life. So he says, Hashem, I'm sorry. It's very nice that you came to visit me. I'm utterly appreciative, but I have to go run to take care of these Arabs. So Rav Noach would always say that this is the essence of Judaism. That story is like the heart and soul of Judaism, and it happens right after Avram does the bris, which is when Avram enters into the covenant where it's an agreed relationship. Right after that, that's when it happens. Now you say, what am I in this for? I'm in this Adam Niver L'Sanig Al Hashem, to bring Hashem's presence into the world, and therefore I want to be like Hashem, and that's the only way I can get to the Tachlis Abriya, is to be like a Kadosh Baruch Hu. And it goes above even being in his presence, above it even being with him. So every mitzvah in the Torah, in a sense, I'm not chas v'shalom diminishing the mitzvahs, but every mitzvah in the Torah is meant to serve what Chazal tell us ultimately is the Tachlis Abriya, to be L'sanig al Hashem. But L'sanig al Hashem means you have to be like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Le'bor HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he only made the mitzvahs, Hirbilim Torah mitzvahs, to be mezakeh them, which means to purify them, to make them more and more like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the whole mitzvahs are this huge framework that are meant to let's say, civilize in a sense. Civilize in the sense that a squirrel does not have a relationship with Hashem because he has no awareness of Hashem. And a squirrel has and a lion will eat a baby and doesn't care about if the baby's innocent or guilty because he's hungry. And the thug in the bad neighborhood that kills a baby because he wants to kill him, he's like a lion. He has no awareness of his neshama. He's acting the exact opposite of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why murder is such a big thing in Judaism, because it's the opposite of the giving life. It's the very opposite of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Destruction. That's why all forms of destruction. That's why Bal Tashchis, and we're learning that in Yevamos, all the Gemaras, but the world is meant for Yishuv. So the Gemara is talking about if you had a son, you only had one kid. Why does Beis Hillel hold you only had one kid? It's enough. So the world is meant for Yishuv. The world's not meant to be. And by the way, I just read some interesting articles on this because Paul Ehrlich population bomb in the 70s, there was this whole new philosophy that man is bad for the world, and the man doesn't belong in the world, and they predicted terrible things would happen, and that Paul Ehrlich said, like, by 1990 the world's going to run out of food, and we have to stop it. And now in England there's a group called Extinction Rebellion. You hear about these guys? They want to get rid of the human race completely, but they're very good people. So they want to do it in a way that just don't have babies and we all die out. We don't have to kill anybody. Maybe you have to kill a few people, That's not the end of the world, but extinction rebellion. Because if we're this bad element.
For what? What's the purpose?
To have these.
They believe that the world is a much better place. The world will be able to exist forever in its natural habitat without us coming and destroying it.
Yeah, but who's gonna have pleasure from it?
The animals.
No, the world wasn't.
If
meant
you don't
to
have a
pleasure.
neshama,
Animals exist.
whatever,
No, not
or
even.
a phobia,
The
or
world wasn't meant to have pleasure. The world was meant to exist in its natural
But for what
formation.
purpose?
there's no purpose.
There's no purpose. No
So
purpose.
who's going to be there to witness it and see like, oh, the world is.
The God.
You're too focused on tachlis.
Yeah.
Because you're so programmed. We are so programmed.
On a tachlis.
Think about tachlis that
Yeah,
we're
but they
assuming.
don't know it. That's what I'm saying. What happens if they're wrong?
Listen, it's a pagan religion.
Yeah.
It's utterly pagan religion. So
Right. The
You
desire
could say-
exists.
you could, in this sense, say that a mitzvah of Abbas Hashem is closer in to the relationship with Hashem than a mitzvah that is meant to evoke or change you, but a mitzvah that changes your personality into being doimel Hashem could have a much greater value than the mitzvah of Abbas Hashem. So if you're angry and you overcome your cost, you overcome your midas, for example, that could be much greater because that's making you more like Hashem. It might not put you in the state of the feeling of the relationship like Avram was having, but it might be much greater in the sense of this mitzvah is converting you into a being that has this relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why you can't be dash in any mitzvah because you don't know what that mitzvah is going to do to you. Because if you really don't want to do that mitzvah and it forces you to be mevater on yourself or whatever it is that it makes you do, every mitzvah is do. Do this, do that. Don't do this, don't do that. Don't do this, don't do that. There's really one mitzvah in the Torah.
What did I say it again? Every mitzvah is
Is
what?
do this,
Oh,
or
excellent.
don't do
Right.
do this, don't do that. There's only one mitzvah in the Torah that doesn't have anything to do in the way the mitzvah is at least worded with do this or don't do this. And it has to do with your identity. Be something. What is that mitzvah? One mitzvah in the Torah that the mitzvah is be something. Be great, be this, be that. Not like Nike, just do it. Like be something.
No, which one?
I don't know where it'll be your Shemayim, but I don't know where.
Where's that? Where's that mitzvah?
I think
It's
the
a goal.
Hashem, no?
What? Which mitzvah in the Torah? You got to speak louder. We can't hear you.
Be like Hashem.
Be like Hashem. Okay, that's one. Which mitzvah practically? Where does it say that in the Torah? Be something. Didn't hear you.
It was like,
Say that again.
Kedoshim to you.
Kedoshim to you. Kedoshim to you ki kadeshani. So it's one.
what's it doing?
Well, Kedoshim to you.
You should be.
You should be something. To you means to
Thou
be.
shalt be.
You
Correct,
shall.
so it means it's the work to be something.
Right, it's to be. You have to make yourself into that.
Correct, so it's
But
also to be.
it's a lot of work. But the way it's worded, the mitzvah is
To be.
defined, is be something. Be strong. Be smart. Be wise. Be thoughtful. Be caring. Be loving. Be holy. And why does Torah say Kedoshim to you? Be holy. Ki kadeshani.
Be like me.
Because Hashem is Kaddish. So this in Judaism is so central. This idea that we have to be Kedoshim.
Like you shouldn't be in a avodah zarah. That's not. You don't have to do anything.
Right, you don't have to do anything.
Right. It's also don't do anything. Just
But the lashon of mitzvah is don't worship avodah zarah. It doesn't say you shall be monotheists. It doesn't say you shall be Sabbath observers. It doesn't say you shall be people who don't speak lashon hara. We're defined by that. You go to a guy, he says, a Jew, they don't eat pork. We are non-pork eaters. But by wording the mitzvah of Kedoshim to you in such a way, it has a feeling, this mitzvah, that it's a much more fundamental mitzvah that's maybe overriding, that infuses all the other mitzvahs. And of course, as as let's see, Rashi Veidavar Hashem al Moshe Lemar. And Baruch's just getting out of Chumash. He's getting out another one. Hold on, Itzikel.
Yeah, it's not here.
Can I ask you a question?
Absolutely.
So, you know, you're going on and on about all these small mitzvahs, big mitzvahs, every little minute mitzvah. The tachlis is to be like me, emulate me, be like me. What is me? Kadosh, what is that?
We could do a session on that because there are
What is
four.
me? Like, okay, fine, doing, but what is? Okay, be like a blackboard. You're not telling me what a blackboard is. You do
Well,
everything-
I agree with you, and we're going to do that because, in my view, there are four definitions of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I take that from the Ramchal. Very few people explore this. But obviously, we say certain things, Mahu Racho, Mahu Chanun, Erech Apayim. We have all the things we say about him, right? But that doesn't go to ultimate definition. That's how he acts. When we say Hashem is a Rachum,
What is the essence of Hashem?
what is the end? We're going to come to that. And Itzikel, you're absolutely right. We must do that. And really, when I used to teach at Aish, I used to start with that. Because if a person doesn't have a definition of God, then we're not talking the same language. Because my definition and your definition might be different. And
I
then
don't have a definition.
what?
I don't know. I don't have a definition.
We're gonna do it. You know what? Next week, well, it won't be next week because next week I am rafting in Oregon on the Illinois River. You're welcome to come if you want to join me. There's still spots available.
What day is this?
I'm leaving Sunday morning on a 7:30 flight to Medford, Oregon, and then Sunday night I'm meeting outfitters, and I'm going to raft Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and come back Thursday night.
Well, next week, my daughter, Meretz Hashem, hopefully is going to have her surgery to put back her,
Wow.
her skull. So,
This should be mid mazel.
amen,
The
amen.
following Sunday,
Yeah.
we're in Israel.
You're in Israel.
I was just thinking, you were saying, Visam Kedoshim, be like me, man, just like I'm Kadosh, but, you know, Kadosh, you had the shamans, you had the holy men in India that just don't do anything a whole day. Maybe they're holier than we are.
Well, we have to define holy.
Right. So what
And
is holy?
we're going to define holy, and we're going to define God. We should do that. We're just not. I don't think we'll do it next week unless you want to do it late Thursday
Following
night.
all the mitzvahs in the Torah,
Yeah.
right? That makes you into Kudosh, technically.
Right.
I'm saying that's the.
Yeah. And Itzikel wants to know what is Hashem, and he's asking a fair question. And unfortunately, because most from Jews do not learn Ramchal, and they don't really delve into it, they don't really know what Hashem is. They sort of
In
know.
a nutshell, what is Hashem?
They don't really know.
So right now, so let's just.
I'm
say
not
in a
going to tell you because if I
nutshell. You
tell
just
you,
started a conversation.
if I tell you right now, what will happen is your cognitive dissonance will allow you to start
to go whichever
Yeah, so
direction
I'm going to work the other way.
Got
We're
it.
going to define Hashem the way you understand him, and you're going to tell me, and I'm going to pull it out of you like a thread from a garment. And we pull it out of you, you're going to tell me, well, this, and we're then going to see how universal the definition of Hashem is, where everyone will agree with it, from Ramosha Feinstein to Hitler. Everyone's going to agree in the definition. They'll have different ways how to accomplish it, how to get to it, but they're all going to agree to it. So we're going to do that, and we must do that because that's fundamental to
Yeah,
understanding
but I
Hashem.
think that's something that is important. Because
Yeah.
I don't think myself it's called Chaburg, right?
So next week, Thursday night.
Well, it won't be.
Yeah, but
It
it
could be
says right
late
here.
Thursday night because I'm
Or
landing.
Friday.
I'm landing in Medford, Oregon. Let me tell you what time I'm landing. I'm landing.
It's interesting.
I'm landing in. I'm coming back. So from rafting, I'm going to Tucson, Arizona. If you want to join us, we're having a Shabbaton in Tucson. This is guy Dave Cutler. He's an interesting guy.
Shabbaton when?
Next Shabbos.
Next Shabbos, that's why he's not here.
Oh, you said you're leaving
No, I'm
Sunday.
going rafting Sunday. Shabbos, I'm in Manhattan by Rabbi Benji Goldschmidt. I'm doing a Shabbaton in Manhattan this
Which
Shabbos.
Shabbos? This Shabbos.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Sunday
not this
morning, I'm leaving the house 5 a.m. I'm on a 7:30 flight to Medford, Oregon, and then I'm going to go rafting Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. B'rtz Hashem, Thursday night, I'll come back. I'm going to fly straight to Phoenix, pick up Janie in Phoenix.
Thursday night, you're coming back where?
To Phoenix.
You're going. Okay.
Janie's going to meet me in Phoenix. Friday morning, we can learn Friday morning. Friday morning, I'm going to drive down to Tucson. I spend Shabbos in Tucson. We're doing a Shabbaton with this emerging Jewish community. And then Monday, I'm going to come back here, home Monday night.
So I have a flight Sunday night to Israel. The question is if I can fly Sunday morning, if I can fly out of Arizona to come back here.
If you want to
do
go
me
to
a
Tucson.
favor. Aaron Talchabar just was in Florida at the beginning of the week for 3 days.
Okay. Okay. V'davar Hashem Moshe Leimer davar al kol adas b'nei Yisrael v'amarta aleihem. Go ahead. Kedoshim tiyu. Why?
Why?
Yeah, not randomly. Kikadosh. So we're going to come to the shaman in India
this
soon.
Is comparison only.
Yes, and let's immediately address Itzakel's shaman, because Itzakel's shaman, his priest, we want to know if his priest qualifies as holy. So let's please see Rashi. Kedoshim tiyu Chaim Baruch.
Kedoshim to you, have it Parishim in her rice, in her Avera, and he says here, the term sin is used here for sin of sexual nature, and he brings it from the Milchas Yehidus, he also writes, it is used in this sense in Yimeh, Daf Chav Tes Amud Aleph, see Rashi there, and Soite Daf Gimel Amud Aleph.
Okay, so what the best definition that we can give briefly in Kedusha
Is right
So
more.
he says,
Is right
would
more.
be-
Shekol Makom Shat Moitzi Geder Erva At Moitzi Kedusha.
Yeah, so how would you define, what does the word kadosh mean?
The hafresh. Is a
Se-
precious.
separate,
Correct.
separation. So let's call it boundaries.
Correct.
So separation, boundaries, and
Um,
what happens if I get to a boundary and I want to cross over the boundary? What do I need to do?
Break it.
Well, if I don't want, if I want to go, but I really know I shouldn't go over, what do I need to do? I want to go over. My name is Vladimir Putin. There's a border. A border is a boundary. I
So
want to
hold
go over the
yourself
boundary,
back.
and I want to do, but I know it's the wrong thing. What do I do?
Hold yourself back.
Self-restraint.
Self-restraint.
So the action of kedusha is an action of self-restraint.
but I'm still
The
stuck with
definition of
words.
kedusha is not the self-restraint; it's the separation.
So what's right? It says Ki Kudesh Ani Hashem Lekech.
Because I Hashem am separate. Well, he's certainly separate from the physical world
Correct. So that's why you should be a Kudesh, because Hashem is a Kudesh.
because he's separate from the physical world. Yeah, and not only is he separate from the physical world, you might say, which we'll go into in a deeper
But
way,
he's Hashem.
he's separate from all physicality.
Yeah, but he's Hashem. It's like I want you to be rich because I'm rich.
Well, that goes back to the relationship. You can only,
But Hashem is Hashem, right?
Right, but you
can
can only
never
be-
be like Hashem.
you could. That's why we can only be close to him if you're like him, and that's the Rambam. The Rambam codified that. That the only way you can get close to this divine being
Kudesh Ani Hashem
is to be
Lekech.
similar to him.
See, it's like a very interesting. Definitely, once I'm start thinking into it, obviously, if Avi Mav said, I'll just say it, right? But here, so I started seeing it a whole different, whole different perspective. Ki Kudesh Ani Hashem Lekech. Because why? Because I'm Hashem, and you are Hashem. I'm Kodesh, and I'm your Hashem.
Right. I'm your God, so I'm here for a relationship with you. I am God, but I'm not just God, abstract being like Thomas Jefferson's God. I'm not a
I'm
deist.
here with you. I'm here.
I'm here to be your God. I'm here to have a relationship with you. And if I want to have a relationship with you, you are not like me. So how are we going to have a relationship? You can't even get close to me.
Correct.
The only thing you could do is you could be Madame
That's-
yourself to me.
It gets back to that. I'm Hashem. You're right, but I'm here with you.
Yeah. So the reason why Itzakel's shaman in India feels like it's Kedusha, which we'll come to whether it is or isn't, but the reason why it feels like it's Kedusha is because there's an element of separation from the world in that guy.
In that world. And
That's why it feels like it. The guru who's sitting on the street corner in India, and he has no home, and he has no clothes, and he's wrapped. He's a sadhu, whatever. He's sitting in the thing, and he's wrapped in some robes, and he's not eating, and he's not chasing money, and he's not chasing olam haza. So there's a feeling about him. Whether it's authentic or not, we'll come to that. But there's a feeling about him that he's mufresh from the world as we know it.
And that's, the
And that's
definition
why
of
people
Kedusha.
think he's holy.
That's the definition of Kedusha.
So we all agree, even the Indians agree in the definition of holiness. Now, we might say it's authentic, it's not authentic. We'll come to authenticity and lack of authenticity. But that act of precious
It's holy.
is in a sense holiness. Now we'll have to reconcile this with what the Rambam says, that a Jew is not meant to be separate from the physical world. We're meant to elevate the physical world. We'll have to come back to that. But the definition of Kedusha, I think, is a very basic definition, is you're separate from...
That's what the Ramban says, mamish word for word.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Go ahead, read it.
Yeah, Kedoshim die Parishim and Avaris Cholmok Shat Moise Geta Erve at Moise Kedesh Lushan Rash Avol Kevators Gahan you stam Parishat here we gaan schon Sham es Katsch gehst mit Kedoshim ki Kudesh ani Keshem shani Kudesh kach atem tie Kedoshim
Keshem shani Parash
Keshem shani Parash kach atem tie Parishim
B'lefi daiti
yeah ein Parshas said the Parashim now
Ein a Parisha says Lipish min Arayas only Arayas B'chol Makam Prushim has heard is here about Rayas, Machal, Masurim, and it was mata different things. Okay?
yeah
And you could be a novel Bershus HaTorah, where your physicality consumes you and it controls you, but you're not violating an Averis. And that they say self-restraint. The idea of restraint.
What does that mean?
Well, it's a separation from physicality. We'll soon see it goes far beyond physicality.
No, but you said a novel Torah is not.
No, but Torah would mean that you follow all the laws, but you're totally sensual being.
So
you're
you
just
go-
a robot.
You go every night to Salt, not to knock Salt, but you go every night to Salt. You eat to your heart's desire.
Oh, you're not doing a virus.
No, you you daven Meyer first, then you go to the thing, you
just
get drunk,
indulging.
you
Go to the
smoke
movie
some weed,
theater.
you marry 6 wives, which in the Torah was permitted. You have a big orgy with the 6 wives.
No,
and
but
you,
that's not allowed.
well, it's 6 wives. You're
Okay,
married
no, but
to
you
them.
still have.
Okay, so you do
You're
one by
saying-
one. You find a way.
And that's why is that novel Torah if it's mutter?
But because this is the Ramban says this he says shouldn't be like a chicken with your wife.
No, again, you're a person. The idea of the Torah is to make you into something better, right? So if you just doing exactly the Torah tells you to do, but there's no outcome, you're just doing it like a robot.
So who did you say who did you say that was a different shmooze? It wasn't to separate; it's to elevate the physical.
We're going to come, the Rambam talks about that.
And this is who the Ramban.
This is the
There's a
Rambam.
Ramban.
I just want to read on for a moment because this is very important. Ke'elu, go ahead, read the next paragraph. Ke'elu kiyoytze behem. Ba mitzvah is haklalas. This is a general mitzvah. After the Torah already specified all the specific Yisurim, this is a general mitzvah. And he includes in the mitzvah, you ready for this? Beklala zois hatzavah hanakiyas b'yada v'gufay. To wash negelvasa, to take a shower. And he says to you, Nikiyim, u'tahirim u'prushim, me'ha'hamoyim b'nei adam she'malach lachin atzmam, b'moishvus u'b'kiyurim. So
Where are you up to? Where
I'm reading the Ramban a little bit further down. Ke'elu kiyoytze behem.
Oh, here. Okay. Yeah, I'm like, yes, man. I got one of those.
So, in a sense, when you wash negelvasa, you're fulfilling the mitzvah of Kedoshim to you,
Got it.
because
got
there's a
it.
constant
It's
effort.
not just so it's okay. So basically,
Not just
it's
arise.
not just to put the gator in front of you.
Right.
It's also to go the opposite direction and pull back. You understand? Actually, to
Cleanse
to
yourself.
Cleanse yourself. So it's not just to do to be a part. You understand? Like
It's not just restraint.
it's not just restraint. Exactly.
It's separation.
It's also going to completely opposite and also trying to clean yourself. Obviously, it's not just talking Gifra, probably it's talking, from the Yeshua as well. Got it.
So then, when you wake up in the morning, we're reprogramming ourselves to separate ourselves from physicality. So we wash Netilas Yadayim. What's the whole idea of Ruach Toma? Ramban actually talks about this. You're washing Netilas Yadayim to cleanse yourself because we want to separate ourselves from our physicality.
Oh wow. He's in Kedoshim, and this is my Achrona.
Right. And it has nothing to do with Arayas per se. Arayas happens to be one of the biggest areas that affects all people, but it's not about the Arayas per se. It's about all of the actions of the person. It's like a psychological reprogramming of man. We're meant to reprogram ourselves.
Rav Aaron,
Yeah.
can I ask you a question? If you have 2 people, you have a guy that is, I guess, shomer on the 7 mitzvahs b'nei noyach, gives charity, he's a good person, even good to Jews say. Okay? But he's a guy. Then you have a Jew that he's Mekayim every single Essa and Loises. He watches every Loises and Essa. But he's a novel, like the Rambam would say, a novel B'Shus HaTorah. Are you going to tell me that he's worse than the... No, another 5 minutes. Are you going to tell me that the Yiddish guy is less than the guy?
Well, I would say the following. You might not agree. I would say he's less, but I would say he has more opportunity because he has the mitzvahs that he can pop back into. The non-Jew doesn't have the same upside.
I'm saying the Jew does every mitzvah.
Yeah, at that moment when he's consumed by physicality, not only is he less, but I can tell you his kids are going to be goyim also, because if he's consumed by it, he sees a cute girl, she's sweet, she's nice, she's cute, he's going to marry her because he's consumed by it. The moment he's controlled by his navala, why shouldn't he marry a guy? So his kids are going to be goyim. So where is he now? He's a guy whose kids are goyim. He's on the way out the door.
Again, there's a Torah say you're allowed to do it, yes or no?
According to the Ramban, Torah says you can't because there's a mitzvah of Kedoshim to you. That is the mitzvah of Kedoshim to you. If you do it, you're not following the Torah.
Okay,
If you're over Kedoshim to you, this is not optional like the Ramban.
Kedoshim to you is Essa.
So after the Ramban, there's no such a thing of novel B'Shus
So
HaTorah.
Yeah.
Novel B'Shus HaTorah is author.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what you're saying.
That
You're
is what
saying
I'm not the one who said it. The Ramban said it. And therefore, if you live in a culture, this is a cultural comment, but if you live in a culture where the latest restaurant and foods and whiskeys and all that are what people are consumed with, they're not following this mitzvah of Kedoshim to you, and they're in a really bad spot.
So why is opening the restaurant okay?
Who said it's okay? Who said it is? It's a novel Parshas Torah. It's only called Parshas Torah because the Torah doesn't say, "Thou shalt not open expensive restaurants that are about Epicurean delights. Thou shalt not be like a Roman and a Greek." The Torah doesn't say. The Torah actually does say that, but technically, opening a kosher restaurant is not chukas hagayim. So since the Torah doesn't say it, in a sense, it's a novel Parshas Torah.
Yeah, but if going out once for an anniversary or twice a year,
this is why the Torah doesn't define it with hard stops, is because it's like we talked about Avos Hashem. This mitzvah doesn't have hard guardrails. Other mitzvahs do. If you don't take an esrog, you did something wrong. If you eat a piece of pork, that's a kazayis, you're over a lav. So other mitzvahs have hard guardrails. If you go to Salt, not to knock Salt because it's a wonderful restaurant, if you go to any kosher restaurant and you eat a meal and you don't overstuff yourself, so you weren't a novel Rosh Hashanah. You had a business meeting, you went out with your banker, and you had a meeting. And then you want to have another piece of steak. So you have another piece. So at some point, you do become a novel Rosh Hashanah. But there's no kazayas hard stop there. Therefore, this is a mitzvah that's more in our discretion of where it goes. But it's no less of a mitzvah, according to Ramban. This is as axiomatic, as fundamental. It's even more fundamental, because the Ramban says this is a mitzvah klalius. And therefore, a life that doesn't have a program of restraint in it, according to the Ramban, is not a Jewish life. Because it's not, you're missing the mitzvahs klalius. So every Jew not only does he have to keep the mitzvahs, he also needs to develop his own personal program. Because there's no guidelines here, there's no guideposts here. So Shabbos doesn't start at 7:41 and 3 halakim. Shabbos doesn't start. It's every day of your life. So a person has to develop his own program.
So why does Rashi base it on immorality?
Rashi is quoting a Chazal about Arias, because Arias is the biggest element of Nevala. And the Prushim and Arias is not the Issa Arias in of itself. It's all the Gedarim that you have to prevent yourself from landing up in that situation. So it's also a form. They're not arguing on the definition of Kedusha, and they're not arguing on the guardrails and the restraints.
Just bring out the most obvious one.
Yeah.
Common one.
So I think it's fair to say that Hashem is not physical, and Hashem has no physical needs. That we know. Can we agree on that, Itzikel, at least? Do we agree, Itzikel, that Hashem is not physical and has no physical needs?
See, that's where I got stuck.
I mean, I couldn't tell you because I don't know.
Okay,
See, I
so
got stuck in that.
since
exactly
God is since God is not a physical being, He doesn't have a body. He doesn't have physical needs. He may have other needs, but he doesn't have physical needs. We'll come later to if he has any other needs. We'll see if he does or doesn't. We'll address that.
Ziskin
Like I
says,
said, it's,
I met this Lieberman, I'll never forget, so in the city, and he told me, he was going back 50 years ago, 14 years ago, he told me, he's like, come to the city, I'm telling you, it's worth it, you could get a nice apartment, it's $20,000 a month, it's not bad. I'm like, $20,000 a month? But in his head,
that was
20,000 a
more.
month, it's like, okay, big deal, it's not, it's like small numbers, right? So I'm saying is, Hashem saying that, why should he be a Kiddush? Because I'm a Kiddush. You're a Kiddush because you're right. He has no needs. There's no pleasures. There's no nothing. So we're talking about two different worlds. The same way I look at it. Like this pasuk right now, I'm reading it as if this Chaim Kiyevsky tells me, he's like, how do you have machshavas azuris? How does it make sense? I understand. I'm like, of course you sit and learn all day. Of course you don't have machshavas. You know, like we're in two different worlds. So I don't understand the comparison to Hashem telling you to do something. Why? Because I'm a Kiddush.
Well, if you look at life as a program of human development, so then in the course of one's life, the person goes through the course of human development. And central to that human development is developing restraint. That's central to the life. It's not side. It's central. Central to life is you develop restraint so that you can become holy. And you don't start holy. I'll prove to you don't start holy. A baby goes to the bathroom in his own pants. Doesn't care. Right? I mean, it doesn't matter to him. He doesn't understand that. It bothers him because it's wet, but he doesn't really care about it. A baby cries when he wants food. Baby interrupts speeches. A baby yells and screams if he wants something. A baby doesn't have an awareness of finesse. A baby spits up on himself, and then he walks around the floor and he smears ketchup on his face and on the wall. He doesn't have that refined nature yet. So we start out utterly,
So
in a sense.
maybe that's what Sheldon Posey is saying, is that why should you be a Kaddish? Because you started off as a Kaddish. I created you. Hashem
I created you having a
I
shine,
created you as a Kaddish, so
Yeah.
that's why.
and I want you to get there.
I want. Okay.
And I want you to go
Maybe
through
we'll
the
do it like
I want you to go through the life program and use life
Mm-hmm.
to refine yourself and restrain yourself, so that ultimately you become a Kaddish. So you become
The way
like
I-
me,
Right.
and once you become like me, then you'll be able to have a relationship with me, and you'll fulfill the purpose of life of the Sonic Ocean.
Do some people have it easier than others? Like look at your brother. Look at Makil. Does a Makil have it easier than me and you, or he just works harder on himself?
I don't think he has it easier. I don't think so.
Oh, you want personal.
Huh?
Can't say that.
I
In
don't
general,
think so.
like,
I don't think anybody has it easier. I don't know if they work on themselves more. I don't know.
I think people.
No one
are
knows.
born-
Everybody has his own set of his own life plan.
But I think people are born in different like.
Born to the
calibers.
manner, as they say.
Yeah, I think so.
You know, even if you're born to the manner, you can have the worst meatus. So it doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but you're still in a higher.
You may have less in your circumstantial physical.
calibers.
You may have less physical attraction because you're in different circumstances.
Okay.
So if you grow up,
So does
in
that,
B'nai
does
Brak-
that make it easier?
what's it?
It's
If you
the,
grow up,
the nature versus nurture.
right, but if you grow up in B'nai Brak, you have less of a chance of being exposed
To
to Swedish beauties. But the kid in B'nai Brak, you know, the fraudster guy, what was his name? You know, the Tinder swindler. He grew up in B'nai Brak. So just because you're born in B'nai Brak doesn't mean you're not chasing Swedish beauties around the world.
Yeah.
So he grew up there.
Self-love.
So you still have Bechira. You grew up a frum kid in B'nai Brak.
That's the wrong example, because I looked into that story just in a second, but in Yiddish it said apple felt nicht wahr,
Right. Okay. All right.
right? So in general, if somebody's brought up in a family like, you know, a chashva family, he has less chances of
I'm not sure. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't know.
You have Skvi and Einiglich, you have Satan and Einiglich that are in the army.
I don't know.
Yeah, you always have the Yotzmakal. I'm saying in the general fact, 100% you'll have that. It happens. It's more than it happens.
The grass looks green on the other side. That's why I asked Rav Aaron, because he grew up.
No, there's no question. If you grew up as a Hindu in India with 1.3 billion Hindus, you have less of a chance of becoming a monotheist.
Then, right.
Yeah, for sure.
I hear.
So I think that
So
one of the
even
conversations, one of the 4 conversations about a Kadosh Baruch Hu is, does he need anything? If he doesn't have a physical body, he doesn't have physical needs, but does he have other needs?
He wants connection.
Well, if you want something, it's because you need it. Is he lacking something?
He's not
Before
lacking anything.
Before he created us, was he lacking a connection? Was he alone?
That's why we created him.
Was Hashem lonely? Why did he create man?
So why did he?
And if
If
he
he wasn't lacking anything, why
and
did
if he
create
did something, does that mean he needed to do it? Because if we do something, we always do it because we need to
Now
do
you're
it.
going into a whole. It's
Yeah.
a very complicated conversation.
But we should have it because we want to understand Hashem.
Yeah. When someone goes on vacation, does he need vacation?
Usually, in some level of his brain, he says, "I deserve it. I earned it."
Correct. So nobody does something for no reason, right? So Hashem created, right, the world the way we know it for a reason.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if it was a reason that related to him, or was it did he need something?
Yeah, for my human brain, I would assume so. Because I have a brain that thinks whenever I do something is because I need it.
Because we're
Do I
programmed
deserve
that
it?
way.
But obviously, I know that I can't put myself into Hashem the way Hashem
But
thinks.
if you have an infinite being has no needs because he's infinite. He never ends. He never dies. He
So
doesn't
why
need to,
would he create it if he doesn't?
he
You're right.
doesn't need to eat. He doesn't need to sleep.
Right. So why would he? What was the purpose of him creating, the world?
One of the things we're gonna see is that there are gonna be differences between understanding what the intent was versus the essence of Hashem itself, which the Torah talks about. So as Moshe says, I wanna see you. Hashem says you can't see me because you can never understand it. You're finite. You can never understand an infinite being. But you can see a chayrai. What's a chayrai? It's like when a tractor trailer passes you. Even if you didn't see the tractor trailer, you feel the wind.
The wind.
So you can see the effect of what I did. So we know the effects of what Hashem did.
Correct.
Okay.
Are we going to touch upon the Rambam?
Oh, we'll have to, yeah.
We have
Just not going to do it now, but we'll have to.
I'm saying the first
The-
thing
the-
he brings up after Kedoshim to you is what? Basically, you should fear your parents and keep Shabbos.
Right. And the reason why is fear your parents the first
Because
mitzvah
the
of
hierarchy.
Kedusha?
It's
Even
creating the
Tirol,
fear.
why is that so central? Why is that the first mitzvah mentioned here?
That's right.
So
he says,
if
right?
I could say
You have to
that,
plan into the future, you live.
what's the most
And
formative
it's-
piece that
it's
human
just-
beings have in their lives?
Connection,
Their
No,
family
Rashi says-
structure.
family
So
structure.
Rashi says why? Because why he says in my first.
Yeah.
Because a person rather fears his father first and then his mother.
Well, why in general? Why this mitzvah of keep it out of the aim?
Right. So that's what I was wondering. Shabbos and
So let's do keep it over aim first. So when you, what is the most formative component of a person's life?
It's in the family.
His family upbringing, his parental upbringing. I mean, Freud. We don't have to get into Freud
Right,
too
so,
much,
okay.
but that's so formative. So it really never
He
leaves
always
you.
goes the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, I met a 90-year-old guy who's trying to make his father happy still. Like that's so formative. It's so elemental. It's always with you. Just like Hashem is always with you. Hashem is always part of your life. Whether you recognize him or not, your parents are always going to be with you.
Like why the 2 mitzvahs in the Torah they get rewarded?
Yeah. What?
Shlicha Ken and
Yeah.
Kibbutz. This is the easiest. This should be easiest mitzvah. A person, his natural being is he wants to make his parents happy. Why would you need a reward? The reward is there by making him happy. Somebody gave millions of dollars to you. Of course, every person wants to do a Tov. The guy who did everything for me, of course.
I think it's
why
the,
do I need a double
I
reward?
think it's the hardest mitzvah.
So, why?
I think it's the hardest. Because I think that when people are screwed up, which most people are,
So that's now you go.
their parents have some role in it.
So now you go into Freud,
I'm going into life.
right, into life, correct?
I don't know if the parents have. They blame their parents.
Yeah, parents have
So-
some role in it. Something.
Okay.
It gets to be somewhere, somehow. Parents
Yeah,
had a
but
role.
where did it start? So their parents,
Yeah, yeah.
and so on and so forth.
Right.
So text
But-
you come back to where
Let him reach it.
Hashem.
Come back to Hashem.
I hear.
Itzik, have an awesome Shabbos.